this debt, this destruction.
Global news impacts us.
We have to change the way we live.
This is why we need independent media.
Cheers and salutations. Welcome to this very special episode of Hard Lens Media. As you all know, we here at Hard Lens Media encourage people to speak truth to power and, more importantly, give a voice to the voiceless in this day and age of censorship. And with corporate media continuing its ongoing failure, because let's face it, corporate media is only designed to make you react and not think critically about the situation and about our two-party system, we're always fed a narrative that our quote-unquote politicians know what is best for us. So by joining us here today, at least right now, you're going to be made aware of just how little our politicians really do think of us. And I've brought this up on the show before, that even the most honorable of politicians in Washington, D.C., eventually succumb to the oh-so-great poison of neoliberalism. Joining me here today for this very special episode is someone who has been contributing to independent media. He has been an outstanding voice to the Indie News Network. Please be sure to check them out. They have done phenomenal work. They were wrongly uncensored for 2 weeks, and I'm proud to have Collin Radix-Carter join us here. Collin, thank you so much, my friend. I understand that you recently did some investigative reporting and on-the-ground reporting at the quote-unquote Squad Victory Fund event. So for our viewers and subscribers, as I pull up the Squad Victory Fund event, could you enlighten us really what that was all about, and how'd you find out about it, and how did they let you in?
First of all, thank you for having me on again, Kit, and shout out to Harlan's Media fam. Happy to be here, and happy Memorial Day to you, Kit.
Oh, thank you.
So how did I find out about it? I found out about this event on Twitter last weekend when the Justice Democrats tweeted about it, and I saw it and saw the tier pricing that they had in order to attend the event, and I was like, hell no, like, that does not seem right to me to ask people, especially since there was a ticket for $500. I was kind of like, no, absolutely not.
And so, and for people seeing this, this is the event that took place on May 24th.
Right.
And
So when you clicked on to that link, it gave more specifics as to, you saw that, and then. And once you bought the ticket, then they released where the event was going to be. So obviously I had suspicions immediately as to, okay, if you pay more, do you get special perks, or like were you able to talk to the squad like a VIP thing or whatever else? Or is this just kind of like what clubs do, or for special events where they want to facilitate you buying tickets early in order to get the cheaper cost?
wow.
It proved to be the latter. And it just kind of shows to me that the idea that the squad ran on being for the working class, that they weren't going to do stuff like this. And I had people who used to work for Justice Democrats say that to me, that that's something that they were told or coached the squad against doing stuff like this. So the idea that they did this more or less having a ticket for $500, I think was just kind of ridiculous to me. But most importantly, it just showed the people that should have been there, the working class activists and advocates on the ground who are doing that grassroots work, would probably eliminate most of them attending, because it's hard. Like, I can't justify giving $500 for essentially a speaking engagement, much less 25 in this day and age when people are struggling and trying to figure out food, rent, mortgage, education, all that stuff like that. So I just felt like,
my God.
That being said, because I know people have asked, I did pay. I ended up paying $75. Because when I did decide to go, the cheaper tickets were sold out. So yeah, you can call me a glutton for punishment, but
I first of all, I almost want to do like a GoFundMe page. Hey, reimburse Collin Radix-Carter $25 because I don't know how you sat through that, buddy. Plus, let's face it, in this recession that we're in, folks, it just costs $300 just to walk outside. Okay,
right.
I'm over exaggerating, but pretty soon it's going to cost like that. Just to go outside is going to be $300. Dinner dates, what are those? That's an arm and a leg. So
Right.
you go to this event. Now, before you went into it, before you went there, I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure you had some questions in line, which you did. You did ask one of the squad members, and I will be pulling up that video. But there's the expectations and reality, because I've done this before too when I've done field reporting, going to a protest or covering a political rally or doing field reporting. I have in my mind, okay, here's how I'm expecting things to go down, and then in comes the oh so brutal fist of reality, in which okay, things don't go the certain way or things aren't happening the way it happened. What were you expecting walking into this event? Were you expecting a huge amphitheater? What was the surrounding like? How many people showed up to this event?
Yeah. So
Expect-
once
what
once
happened?
I bought the ticket, they revealed where it was. So basically, it was a church that is converted to like an art gallery in Southwest DC. So kind of out of, for those of you who don't know DC, it's kind of an out of the way area, part of DC. But checking the specs of the building just before, because they had an indoor and outdoor facilities. Total, the maximum capacity, including both areas, was under 1,200 people. So it wasn't going to hold a lot, even if they had it in both inside and outside. But it was basically like a hall that everyone kind of gathered in. That was kind of the equivalent of a very small school gym. So
Wow.
I think, and I'm giving a very generous estimate, there were probably about 150 people there total.
Not
Most
too
of whom,
many. Not too
no,
great. No.
no. So most of whom were PMCs, pretty much white professionals, which is very stereotypically DC. There are a few people of color there. But I was kind of expecting that, given that essentially people were hearing or just being in the celebrity of the squad and just having to talk to them for like a little over an hour or so. So I was expecting that going in. And I know like Sabby has mentioned when they held a similar event in Boston a few months ago, they held it at a theater that I'm also familiar with because I used to live in Boston.
Mhm.
That theater had a capacity of maybe about 500 people. So they weren't going to expect a lot of people to begin with, which kind of shows how irrelevant the squad is at this point, because if they were doing their
Oh,
job, they would
wow.
be able to hold it in Capital One Arena, which is like our big basketball hockey stadium in DC. They should be able to fill it out or close to it, if they are as popular as they're seeming to be. So no, it's a very small venue, which may justify why there were tickets up to $500 to kind of account for the lack of people who would be coming, essentially.
And again, to your point, and everyone in the live stream chat is even commenting this as well. It's kind of arrogant and really pompous of the squad, who, for their most part, at least according to their campaign their campaign ads, were stating, "Oh, we care about working class values." But let's face it, there's a recession happening right now.
Right.
Even asking for $25. Look, I get that politicians have to do their little fantastic fundraisers. Apologies for the stutter. But when you have a populace that has to choose between buying food or paying the bills, when you have a populace that is losing their small businesses are being shut down at an alarming rate, when you have a crumbling infrastructure and homeowners and renters wondering, will I have a roof over my head tomorrow? The quote unquote squad that supposedly cares about human values asking for money, especially at the outrageous cost of $500 just to meet up. But before we went live, you told me, and I think it's only fair that we should even address the question part, that you were going to have this exclusive one-on-one meeting with AOC or Ayanna Presley or Jamal Bowman. It's more of a here they are, then you leave. I mean, hell, at an anime convention or a Star Trek convention, at least you have a chance to ask a question to the actors or voice actors. You get nothing from the politicians. You're wondering, hey, it's expensive just to breathe air.
Right.
So can you elaborate on that while I pull up this video of you asking this question, Ayanna Presley? Because there's a major update to this story that you informed me about too. So take it away, Collin.
Yeah. So again, I didn't expect, given, like people like Jose Vega and Lucy, who is also part of INN, they've gone to town halls and they challenged squad members and other Democratic politicians, like dealing with war in Ukraine and other issues. So I expected that, especially for this, that they would adapt and have everything kind of controlled. So I kind of went into it, and actually, and I'm going to be very honest here, I was very nervous in going up because I was able to stand close to the front to record this whole thing. I was very nervous in calling them out because it's not like it's a big room where I could say my piece and then leave. I would stand out like a sore thumb. And compared to what people might think, I'm very private. I'm very shy just naturally. So doing stuff like this is really working out of my comfort zone for me. But the larger thing was, look, I paid $75, so I want a return on my investment.
As you should. As you should.
But
there you go.
Number two, and I think this is the biggest thing, is that, I, for all intents and purposes, am a PMC myself. I don't like the idea of spending $75, but I could. I know a lot of our audience may not have the means to be able to do that. So, so I thought of it, this could be a way to kind of show what's happening behind the curtain, so to speak, of events that the squad are at that most of our audiences will not have the opportunity to learn and hear about, given that they don't have the money to attend these things. So I just found it as a way to kind of show our audiences this is the reality of what the squad and other politicians really are talking about when they're, I argue, the most comfortable.
Okay, before I pull up this video, let me just tell you something. I was in your shoes once too. I understand what it's like to get outside your comfort zone, but it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out here and do your show like you do on INN, or what we see with Jimmy Dore or RBN, or even here with Hard Lens Media. It takes a lot of courage, right? And folks, look, doing this kind of thing, being on social media, you have to get out of your comfort zone. There is no triumph and parade every single day. Sometimes it's a slugfest. But you just did something that very few people have the courage to do. And I encourage everyone else to speak out. I get it. It's easy to be afraid, but use that fear as a weapon. Use it as a weapon and hone your abilities. So here's the thing. I have played this video here on Hard Lens Media on our main show.
Yes.
It's where you are asking Ayanna Presley about, well, the student loan debt crisis that we are in. Now, I'm going to play the video in its full entirety. And look, sorry, folks, you're going to get bombarded with a word salad. I want to play it. I will. I think it's only fair. So we'll just hear it out. And then, Collin, I want you to talk about the aftermath, because apparently our also fantastic friends of Majority Report also had to add in their own 2 cents about what you did, which again, it's just, it's maddening to think that, they were that you were purposely saying that she didn't answer the question. She gave a word salad answer. Tell me, this is a yes or no question here, folks.
Right.
So you go up, you cross the Rubicon, and you ask this important question. And I want to post the Twitter link here. This is you, part of INN.
Yeah.
Where you're talking to Ayanna Presley. So, folks, get ready. Now, again, the question he is asking, Collin is asking, is a yes or no question. Now, there is a student debt crisis that we are in, and I have my own opinions about college here in America. Don't go to it. go overseas or go
And
to a trade
can I
school.
just
Go
say
ahead.
this
Go ahead.
real quick? Again, most of the and we're actually going to release the full event later on today, so people can watch it on their own and kind of make up their own mind of,
Mhm.
kind of what you said. Did I, kind of step in? As I said, I paid $75, so I wanted a return on my investment. But just to give you an idea, each squad member was asked a specific question, mostly around, what they value, whatever. So like Corey spoke about reparations, Ilhan Omar spoke about the debt ceiling, Rashid Tlaib spoke about labor, but each squad member had a tailored question regarding something that was of value to them. So Ayanna, so just to give some more context, Ayanna Presley started to speak about student loan debt. I am very passionate about student loan debt because I have student loan debt. I also know the people in that room, they may not give a damn about reparations. They may not give a damn about the debt ceiling. They may not give a damn about police brutality. But I'm sure the good number of them still have student loan debt. So
Yeah.
I felt like if I was going to get in and asking a question, that made the most sense given the audience that was around me. So to give you some context of what was happening, Ayanna started talking about student debt. As I said, you could watch the whole thing in its entirety when we release it later. So that's when I felt appropriate. And I wasn't mean. I wasn't boisterous. In my politeness, I asked her that question. So go ahead.
Fair enough. And if I could just add in something here too, you know what probably would have relieved the pressure off, because I understood you being nervous asking a question. That's perfectly fine. Hell, when I was first starting this business, nervous as hell too. Right there, up there, folks, right there. But you want to relieve the pressure. Somehow Jose Vega was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then it would have shined the light right off you, and then you would have been okay.
Yeah. It's always easier, and that would be my advice to people. It's always easier to at least have one other person to do it with you. But like I said, I was alone. So I was recording and doing this. So there was a lot more on me. But
all right. Now again, this is a yes or no question. She gives a word salad. So let's play it.
Congressman, didn't you give a memo to Biden with Senator Wong regarding student debt to tell him to use the Higher Education Act?
Let me just say this, because I want to get in trouble if I start taking questions from the floor, okay? But I want to say on student debt and where that fight stands right now.
So he asked a question, but she said, I don't want to get in trouble for asking. Who's going to beat you up? AOC is going to take you out back and beat you up?
You want to know my guess? Probably Hakeem Jeffries.
Well played. Well said. Thank you. My goodness. There you go. More on the word salad.
Yes.
It is in the Supreme Court. By the way, expand the courts. Yeah. Reform the courts. Expand the courts. And it's not that radical, y'all. There is precedent. It's been done 6 times before. It's far right. It's extremist. It's imbalanced. And they are causing great harm. That is where the student debt issue is right now. But that being said, we're all organizers, and no organizer goes into a fight without a contingency plan. We have them, but I'm not ready to see defeat here because the legal case is sound. The legal case is sound. So, stay tuned on that because we know that was a motivating issue in the midterms for many. This is a transformational, consequential issue, and we're not giving up this fight. So in the fact that we made it this far, first they said the president didn't have the authority. Then they said it would be regressive in impact and only benefit white graduate students who went to affluent schools. And we have challenged and proven all of that wrong. This is a huge coalition of impacted borrowers, civil rights organizations, union workers, presidents, tradesmen and women. But my point is the progress that has been made is because of the movement. So I'll just close by saying this. It is progress. And listen, 60 million people have already benefited from this relief, provided the Supreme Court follows the letter of the law. 1 in 4 Black borrowers will have their debt zeroed out completely. This is 40 plus million people that stand to benefit. Do we want more? Do we fight for more? Yes. But Pell Grants are our most burdened recipients. And the fact that $20,000 worth of debt will be canceled for Pell Grant recipients and $10,000 for non-Pell Grant recipients, that is progress. The legal case is sound. The president has the authority. So let's see what the Supreme Court does. But my point here is, as much as I want government to lead, more often than not, government does not lead, but it does respond to pressure. And so we have to keep it up. So I thank you all for recognizing that movements and revolutions require resources. So we thank you for your investment, and we thank you for your solidarity in this movement.
Oh, God. All right. So, again, that was a word salad. Just rewind 10 seconds in just to hear Collin's question again. In case you forgot, everyone, listen closely.
Congressman, didn't you give a memo to Biden with Senator Warren regarding student debt to tell him to use the Higher Education Act?
Let me just say this, because
She didn't answer the question. That's a yes or no, right?
Right.
But she deflected with expand the courts.
It's courts.
As soon as you hear that, your response, and by the way, folks, the debt ceiling crisis, turns out a lot of those borrowers, yeah, you're going to have to go back to paying off your student debt. And don't be surprised for anything that they did relieve pressure off you that you might have to pay back too. Because,
And
again, there you go. Go ahead, Collin. Take it
yeah,
away.
but I was on a panel with.
Oh, sorry. All right, sorry. Can you reinstate
I
that?
was sure. I was on a panel with Sabi, Imani Oakley, and Case Study QB a couple of months ago, and we talked about this. And Imani, shout out to her, she called a student loan agency just asking if student loan debt was forgiven, will the principal be forgiven first, or will the interest be forgiven first? And the representative said the interest will be forgiven first. So even if, and I'm saying it with a very small if at this point, because I've been screaming this to my audiences, if you haven't been paying, expect to pay them back. And probably now, given this agreement, shout out to CJ for tweeting out this an article in the Hill today, that we might be paying. They're trying to codify the idea of paying sooner. But the representative that Imani spoke to basically said, no, you will be paying the interest first. So you still have the principal, assuming if you have anything left, and then the interest, regardless, will continue to accrue. So basically, any relief that will be going will first be prioritized to the corporations before it benefits you. So that's the part that Biden didn't tell you about. That's the part that the squad didn't tell you about. But more importantly on this, Warren, Presley, and Schumer wrote a memo to Biden back in the winter of 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
How to forgive student debt using the Higher Education Act. That was in the winter of 2021, shortly after, Biden got elected in, right? When did Biden decide to cancel student debt? Last summer. So he sat on his hands for a year and a half, knowing how to do it. And instead, he used the HEROES Act, which gives emergency contingencies in relation to COVID. Kit, we're no longer in a pandemic.
Yeah, that's true. YouTube, hold on, wait. Just so the overlords hear it. YouTube, just remember, the WHO said that it's over. Okay? Right. YouTube, it's not from me. It's from an authoritative organization.
Right.
There you go. Just throwing it out there.
I don't think you need to worry about that, Kit, but I understand given the censorship. But so that's why I asked you the question. So really that should have been a yes or no response. But she deflected. And I've also noticed that Warren has also deflected to the Supreme Court because Republicans bad, the conservative judges bad, versus your leadership did not follow the assignment. And as a teacher, I always say that if you listen to my instructions, you will do a good job if you listen. So obviously Biden did not pay heed to the way that Presley wrote with Warren of how to cancel student debt. And you would think that, look, Biden, and people don't necessarily think about this, Biden has the top lawyers in the country at his disposal. Do you really think that he would have done this not knowing that there was going to be a challenge regardless? Because that's the argument that also people are making regards to student loan debt. Oh, regardless, yeah, it was going to get a challenge anyway. But the idea is use the policy that would best have the best effect, if at all possible, which is why he should have used the Higher Education Act. But instead, he used the HEROES Act to justify, oh, we're in an emergency, but now we're not in an emergency anymore. So just given that, that shows to me that Biden had no intention, compared to what shitlibs are saying, to cancel student loan debt. And now given that with this debt ceiling, whatever business, that basically now they're saying, oh, you have to pay your debt, that gives them cover as far as, oh, it's the Republicans' fault. Oh, it's the Supreme Court's fault. Versus Ayanna, and I'm going to give her a little credit in saying to Biden how to do it, and Biden fucked up on purpose, and she's not calling that out. She didn't say that to our audience, which is what made it very dishonest.
So Roger Meadows asking the question, as a teacher, how would you grade them?
Well, if you don't listen to the instructions and you fuck up, that's a straight up F, because that's essentially me helping you do well. So if you just choose to do your own thing, that's your choice, but you have followed the consequences of that. Except the difference is, in this case, we're going to suffer the consequences, not them.
So I want to pull up this video here. It's just their short commentary. I don't want to play the video in full entirety, but it's 2 minutes in, where apparently, and you found this out on Friday of all.
Well,
things.
yesterday. I found literally yesterday, because I don't watch Majority Report. I don't subscribe to Majority Report.
Yeah.
I only found this out because I was searching something in connection to INN. And I saw my name highlighted with this video, and I was kind of like, what is this? I discovered that they used the clip that you just played.
Yeah.
But made you can watch. We will watch it. But
this is what I call. Hold on, Collin, and you could use this. This is what I call carrying water for the Democratic establishment, okay? Because sometimes those buckets are heavy, but I don't think that's water that's in those buckets. I think it's something else.
Did, or to relieve it, as we see all the time. In this instance, under the auspices of COVID, because there was an emergency. This is a statute that came up and in the wake of 9/11. A lot of people argue that they had other authority in which to do it. This, I think, is a representation of the understanding of at least Ayanna Pressley, who came out with Elizabeth Warren calling for $50,000 debt under a different auspices. That is the general power of the Secretary of Education to forgive this debt. And here's how she responded at a Justice Dems organizing event. And I'll say what's fascinating about this is, like, I don't know INN.
Indie News.
He will now. But seriously. Okay, so now listen, everyone, how they describe your question. And again, the thing is, folks, Ayanna didn't answer the question because, again, I'm going to pull up that article from The Hill. All right. And this is from yesterday, where, again, Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, has indicated student loan payment pause gone under the debt ceiling deal. So let's hear the rest of this, and y'all will hear. Again, I'm going to pull up that article.
The News Network, they're the ones who recorded this. They put it up as if this made her look like she was trying to avoid the question. And it seemed like they hadn't listened to the entire clip, or I don't know what. But it seems to me, regardless of how you interpret her saying, like, I shouldn't answer this, we've been told we shouldn't answer questions. which I get was a function of like how much time that they needed. But she answers the question, and she's clearly laying out a strategy, at least that she thinks exists. They go to the Supreme Court with this authorization, and if that doesn't work, they go to the next one. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but that seems to be the strategy. And remember, Congress, in passing the American Rescue Act in February of 2021, said that any loan forgiveness given by the Department of Education would not be considered a taxable benefit, which is important because generally loan forgiveness is a taxable benefit. If you owe $50,000 and it's forgiven, you actually pay taxes on that $50,000 because you got it.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, you got it. And so Congress did anticipate loan forgiveness, which means that they also contemplated the idea that it was legal, that the president had this authority. So remember that when the Supreme Court says Congress didn't explicitly give this authority, they certainly thought they did. But here is Ayanna Pressley.
Okay, so, Collin, your 2 cents and your commentary.
Well, it's funny that they mentioned, they alluded to the idea of Ayanna Pressley using the Higher Education Act, but they didn't use that in context of what I asked her and her response. They basically said, oh, well, they didn't know it's me, but the person that asked, was going in bad faith, which again, I was the one who asked the question. I was the one who recorded it. So I was there the entire time. And as I said, we will put out the whole thing. You can make your own decisions as to what you think in terms of this. But if you watch the clip, basically they said, that the plan is, if this falls through, then they have a backup plan.
Okay.
If that was the case, then why is Secretary Cardona and Biden already talking about the idea of people repaying their student loan debt? And now, given this debt ceiling agreement that you're now pulling up, that there aren't going to be any pauses anymore. Like they're codifying that right now. So you would think that if it's still in court, that Biden will be like, okay, let's keep another pause until the decision. Nope.
Wow.
They're not even waiting for the final verdict from the Supreme Court. They're going to be like, well, nope, we're preparing for you to pay it. So where's the contingency plan? There is none. Ayanna did not mention anything in her contingency plan in the word salad that she gave. So I don't know what Majority Report was talking about. They obviously kind of pulled it and they were just like, oh, we need to run cover for Ayanna. But not realizing that it was me that was there and watched the whole thing and saw the whole thing. And as I said, I took an opportunity because, as I said, I paid $75. I wanted a return on my investment. I wanted to ask her that. I felt I had a right to answer that for her to ask that question. And she didn't answer it.
Now, again, for those of you who haven't seen this, so this is before, because we got a couple other videos I do want to pull up of this town hall. I think we'll have time to play one more, but let me pull up this. Just make this one quick statement about student debt and college here in America. Okay, I would recommend to my viewing audience, if you have anyone who's part of Gen Z or the generation coming afterwards, it might be too late for boomers, Gen Xers, and us millennials, but it's not too late for Gen Z and the other ones. And what we have to tell people is break away from the college industrial complex, okay? The chains of debt will follow you even after you die. Okay. Student debt cannot be forgiven, especially when you die. All right. It will follow you. And the thing is, you have people who are not only paying off the principal, but also the collective interest. We have seen so many videos on social media where you have grown adults even crying, like saying, hey, I just paid $20,000 and it still didn't make a dent because of the interest. Do not go to college here in America. All right. I don't want to be that person say, don't do it. I don't want to be that person saying, don't attend your dreams. But you might want to just play your cards a little more carefully. If you want to go to higher education, go. There are like, I think, 50 to 60 countries that have college for free and affordable. You have to bide your time and you have to be leaving out the nest, going overseas. But hey, go on an adventure. Go ahead. Don't feed the college industrial complex here in America. Break away from it, okay? And if you don't want to go to a 4-year academia, even if it's free or affordable, whatever, then guess what? Go to community college, go to a trade school, get an apprenticeship program, but do not make that monster, the college industrial complex, the system of debt slavery, have it collapse under its own weight. Do not give it fresh meat. Don't do it. Walk away from it. Be debt free. Now, I don't have student debt. I had the GI Bill and the IVG Illinois Veterans Grant help me out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I am still saddened by some of my college friends who still have to pay off student debt. I don't want to see that because, again, I'm hearing all these stories of people constantly in debt, facing bankruptcy, hell, suffering from severe depression. I don't like seeing that. I don't like seeing that. So I just want to pull this video, not this video up here, but this article up again. So Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Sunday described the student loan payment pause as gone, G-O-N-E, as in gone, forever gone, as part of the debt ceiling deal announced by the California Republican and President Biden late Saturday night. The pause is gone within 60 days of this being signed. So that is another victory that brings $5 billion each month to the American public. So Ayana, what the hell?
Right.
Oh my God.
So, but again, they're going to use this as cover, as, bad Republicans. But again, she and Warren instructed Biden how to do it. Not to say it would win, but it had a more solid argument as to it had a better chance of having it go through, even with a challenge. Because the reality is, regardless, it was going to get a challenge anyway. But the problem is, if Biden did this back in 2021, shortly after he was reelected, there would have been enough time to go through the courts and all of that. You can make that justification then. But Biden sat on his hands and purposely waited until last summer when he needed the votes of young people. Wow. And then, strangely enough, as soon as the Democrats basically, they held on to the midterms by a thread, then all of a sudden it got challenged in court.
I want to pull up this up here too. It's in the live stream chat. It's on our Twitch account. Kashami Kate says, my friend who is so in love with Emma still has student loan debt, and he just turned 60 years old this year.
Yeah.
All right. Again, let me be very clear on this, folks. All right. Student debt is downright deplorable. And the way we have college, higher education set up in this country is barbaric compared to other nations. Now, besides that, hey, we also have a ongoing health crisis here, mental health. Medicare for all, we don't have it. We don't have universal health care. We don't have anything like that. The insurance, big pharma, the healthcare insurance industry have all their weight on the scale to ensure that both Democratic lawmakers, that's including the squad, and Republican lawmakers make sure that, hey, the American people don't have Medicare for all. And the thing is, AOC kind of lets out the secret sauce, because there was a situation that took place way back in 2021. Hell, there was 3 major events. The 3-day General Strike Summit meeting that was hosted by RBN, Revolutionary Blackout Network. There was the March for Medicare for All. Oh, and then there was that thing called Force the Vote. Now, for those of you who don't know what Force the Vote is, Collin, would you care to just take charge of what Force the Vote is? I would like to give the floor to you.
So basically, Force the Vote, what in this case was the squad, we were asking the squad to withhold their vote for Speaker Pelosi regarding her speakership in exchange that she puts, well, we made the argument for Medicare for All in the middle of a pandemic, but basically any progressive policy that they chose to be brought to the floor. And people were saying, oh, it wasn't going to pass. Yeah, that's the point. The idea wasn't that it would pass. The idea was to build momentum towards these progressive policies that, especially given in the pandemic, were extremely popular, that it would build momentum towards advocacy and grassroots organizing, that the squad, if they were doing what they should have been doing, would have been able to use that energy, especially with mainstream media, to kind of highlight a lot of these issues, that it will get more momentum going on those things. So, but because the squad did not do that, when was the last time you saw them speak about Medicare for All? The issue has basically died, I would argue, since 2021. Other than maybe like
with Bernie Sanders earlier this month, he actually talked about reintroducing Medicare for All on the House floor for a vote that's not going to happen, since the Democrats know that they might lose this election cycle, and plus they don't have a majority in the House right now. So that's it. They only talk about it when it's time to do fundraising. That's when they do it. So I want to pull this up here where we have AOC talking about what was going on during the crisis. So listen to this, folks. Even the richest of the rich felt like they were in the same boat with all us poor folk. Hey, do you remember all those, high class people as they were struggling to put food on the table? Do you remember any of those rich people? Here, listen to what AOC says. This is how you know she's a fantastic actress. She missed her calling. She truly did. She missed her calling for Hollywood. She's wasting her time in Congress.
And what we saw at that time was, out of the top 10 zip codes in the United States afflicted with COVID, 5 of them were in my congressional district. It was all hands on deck. And at that time, because it was so early, it was before the public health data had come in. It was before we knew almost anything. And there were organizers and people on the ground that were saying, this disease, this illness is not hitting all of us the same. It is hitting marginalized communities more. It is hitting Black communities more. It's hitting brown communities more. It's hitting the working class more. And we have folks on the ground that saw this and knew this and rang the alarm about it before any public health data came out. And they said, so presciently, they said, we need to act on this now, because once people find out that this is not hitting all of us the same, they're not going to want to act on it. There's going to be less urgency. We found out that some people are more protected than others.
Really? Hey, Collin, you know that some people are more protected than others? Some people have a nice little cushion.
I sure did.
By the way, folks, just so you know, you're also fantastic Democratic and Republican lawmaker in the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate have or earn a 6-figure salary. They have wonderful social benefits, lobbying jobs, and other speakership jobs waiting for them if they retire or are elected out of office. And plus, they have a thing called a gold-plated healthcare. That they have gold-plated healthcare. So they get to have.
I probably will report on this on Wednesday, but I saw this on Twitter, I believe, over the weekend, that they have more perks now. They actually now get reimbursement for housing and food and other things. So
cool.
That was
what about us?
And that was very recent. I think within the last 2 months that was passed. So these guys, especially if they're renting, they don't pay for their housing now. They don't pay for, especially if they're traveling, they don't pay for their food.
You know what? Politicians, hashtag nothing but freeloading fucks. That's what they are.
Right.
By the way, folks, they get to have all of that. You don't. You got to struggle. All right. All right. The big banks and Wall Street, need that bailout money. All right, my lovelies, that's what they need. So that's what they're going to need. That's what they're going to need to get. All right. But one other thing here too, I want to mention, and that is when they say that we're all in the same boat. Just so you know, Congress made a financial killing during the 2020 pandemic. I urge everyone to check out the Twitter account Unusual Whales, and you'll find out just what our politicians were doing. And what I mean by doing, insider trading. Insider trading, Democratic and Republican lawmakers. Like I said before in the show, as those Russian tanks were getting close to the Ukrainian border, did Congress do two options? Option A, did they call an emergency session, the U.S. Senate and House, and get the president down there too to call for diplomatic actions to end the war before one fire is shot? Or did they call their brokers and investors to help them earn a killing? It was the military-industrial complex. What do you think happened? The answer is B. They called up their stockbrokers, their investors, their third-party people that handle their accounts, and a lot of lawmakers, Democrat and Republican, made a huge killing, financial killing in 2022, and they still are to this day. Just throwing it out there. But listen to more of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this moment, I remember, all of us were a part of it, where we were on these emergency calls, and it was almost it was such a dark time, but it was also a suspended reality, because there was a moment where everybody, all Democrats of all ideologies and Republicans, were almost willing to entertain anything, from universal basic income to mortgage freezes to freezing our credit scores. They put all of it on the table because they thought they were at risk too. All of a sudden, people with the most privilege and power thought they were in the same boat as the people who were most vulnerable. And when they were in that boat, they were willing to do anything.
Man, when I was in that boat, I could have swore I heard somebody say in a highfalutin voice, "Excuse me, sir, can you pass me some Grey Poupon?" So, everything was fine. They decided, and they did universal basic income. They did student debt forgiveness, and I'm sorry, that's a fantasy. That didn't happen at all. Collin, correct the record, because I don't know how you didn't interrupt or just say that's a blatant lie,
right?
While recording this.
And Indy left. Shout out to him because I know he's in the chat. We had conversation about this after, like, I came back and we were analyzing the footage. She's lying, because number one, if that was the case, why didn't we hear about this back then? Number two, and number one, and number two, as Indy pointed out, they might have thought about the idea that anything was on the table, but it wasn't going to be a possibility as long as Pelosi was running the show. So this, I believe, was tailored to the people who were in that room. Of the idea of like everything was on the table, and then, but if you continue, and again, we'll show the whole thing. Mm-hmm. If you watch the rest of her response, she goes into the fact that the idea of funeral reimbursement kind of came out of all of this. And she mentioned how organizers and activists, that's what they were pushing for. Now, I don't live in her district, so I can't verify that at all. And that's not to say that wasn't a need at the time. Mm-hmm. But taking care of the dead versus taking care of the living. Like, for example, making sure that people were able to pay for their home, making sure that we had universal health care. You mean to tell me that those issues do not trump the idea of taking care of funeral costs, which they are expensive. The average funeral is about $10,000, but it's not going to be any more than, like, let's say if you have cancer, and you probably have to pay more of that out of pocket to take, to deal with that. So to me, this just seems like this was a whole lot of bullshit. She may have thought they may have brought it up, but their leadership was like, hell no. And I would suspect that this is what they were given in response to, no Medicare for all, no any of this, but we'll give you this as a win. We'll give you the idea of, talking about funeral reimbursement as a win for you, but we're not going to entertain the idea of giving you anybody Medicare for all. So she's probably lying here, but I think she was lying for the audience that was in the room who paid for her to say that versus speaking to someone like me who would have probably challenged her on that. And again, to be vulnerable, because this was at the beginning, so I was kind of thinking about when I should speak. So basically, when I started speaking out against Jamal Bowman, this was toward the end of the evening.
Mhm.
That's when the hired help kind of came by to me, and they were like,
Oh,
yeah.
really?
So,
The help
yeah.
kicked you out?
No, they didn't kick me out, but I don't want to assume it was security, but he could have been. But when I called out Jamal, like,
Why Biden?
someone stepped up to me. I was like, we got you, but you need to chill. So that was
Why?
probably,
Oh my
yeah.
God. So wait. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. But again, let's face it. You are there. You paid $75. Hashtag Collin, you got to do a GoFundMe. Just say, hey, look, I just want $75. No more, no less. We got to reimburse Collin. Or either that, go to INN, Indy, make sure we got to reimburse if it's $75.
We already got some. I already recouped some of that back.
Okay.
So shout out to my
that's
so
fine.
shout out to my the INM family and our audience for taking pity on me and give essentially help to give me some of my money back. But again, I felt money well spent for us to kind of see just how shit they really are. But yeah, like the hired help stepped up to me while I called out Jamal, basically telling me to chill. So
this is the final video. Now, obviously, again, as you stated before, on your guys' social media, on your YouTube channel, I'm assuming other live streaming services, you're going to upload the full video in its full entirety. So let's hear this, because again, look, folks, nothing has fundamentally changed under Biden. Okay, student debt. I wanted the student debt thing to be successful. All right, even if it was a measly 10K or 20K, but that was never going to happen. All right, this is Biden who says he has no empathy for young people. The kids are still in cages. Hey, liberals, the kids are still in goddamn cages, okay? So all that other stuff. We got money for war. We got money to bail out the banks and corporations. Trains are derailing. People are being evicted from their homes and apartments. So nothing has changed. Things have gotten progressively worse, but somehow everyone's all behind Biden because Trump. So let's hear this video. Honestly, Collin, I have to commend you for your outstanding work. So let's play it.
The majority of Congress does not have a sense of urgency as it relates to doing something about this issue. Everybody's just going about their business, going about their day, in their nice suits, going to fundraisers, raising money, getting reelected, and they're not doing shit. Like, why are we negotiating with them on anything if they don't want to do anything about gun violence? Why are we negotiating on any issue? Any issue? If we have people in Congress that are okay with our children being killed and gun violence being the #1 killer of children in America, we have lost our soul as a nation. And so when I processed all of this consciously and subconsciously before I came out and started yelling at reporters to ask Republicans what the hell are they going to do about gun violence, which is what led to Massey addressing me and then us having that back and forth.
That is performance arts right there. I mean, I've seen better scripted fights.
If I could have, I would have challenged them all of what about Biden? What about the George Floyd, which we know is shit. But even with that, it's like, what about the George Floyd Act? Or what about every other Black person that has been murdered by the cops. These people have not, unless if it's politically convenient for them, they're not in the streets when they are shot and killed. So this is a whole lot of bullshit. And he's saying, all these people are going to these events and like fundraising and all of that. They just did it. Like AOC and Jamal Bone was at an event in New York that Roger Meadows and Lucy called them out on. And this in all is a fundraising event. They marketed it as an organizing event, but they even said it at the beginning of this function is that we need to keep these people in here. We need to keep them in Congress. So give us your money to ensure that they continue to do the good work in Congress. That's what they were marketing this event to be.
Wow. Oh my God. Money them. Money us now. Money good.
Right.
Okay.
So it makes sense that they're going to ask the PMCs who don't know shit that do have some money to be able to give to them. They're not going to ask us because they know the answer will be fuck no.
Okay. So real quick, with that showdown that Jamal had in the halls of Congress, I've seen more scripted fights and arguments in ECW and WCW and WWF produced better more than that, whatever that was. All right. So let's hear the rest of this. Hang on, folks.
But for me, as I hear everyone speak on the issues that we're fighting for, I'm really grateful and appreciative to them and all of us and all of you. But I'm also like, damn, like we got to take over this whole shit. Like, and I mean right now, like 2024 is a wrap. Yeah. It's not just taking back the House. We got to grow seats in the Senate. We've got to drag this 80-year-old man across the finish line of the win.
Oh no!
Why?
Why?
I'm sorry, man, but I'm upset, because there's another thing, right? It's like,
why Biden?
I know, right?
Why?
I know. And maybe it should be one of us.
And then that's when the manager or the security or either that one of their handlers said, "All right, buddy, any more questions, you're getting thrown out."
Yes, basically. And I'm not sure if you saw it, but did you see Corey and Ilhan's face when Jamal said, "This idiot dragged this idiot old man"? Like,
oh yeah, that was
like it was just like what. I honestly, just as an aside, I personally think he might have had a couple of, prior to, because this is not the first time. This is not the first time I've heard Jamal speak. Like, he spoke at an event that my advocacy group was hosting last year. He didn't quite sound this loose-lipped as this. So the idea, like,
so he had some liquid courage, you think?
That's speculation, but that would be my guess. Because and people, did comment just, and not to say like cursing is not necessarily a bad thing, but he was just he was a little too comfortable, if you ask me, like, given where he was. So that's why I suspect, I can't prove that. But he did seem a little loose in the mouth, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's just the idea, like, they basically are saying, yeah, we're going to support Biden. So what hope should we have in the squad anymore? They're not, and not to say that I'm a fan of Marianne or RFK, I'm not. But politically speaking, they're more aligned with Marianne and RFK in some areas than they are Biden. And you're not seeing them supporting even one of those two candidates. And people were saying online, like, oh, well, they're not viable. Well, is Biden?
No.
So, like, what has Biden given us? Not much, if anything. So,
He he made people go back to brunch. That's what he gave the people.
Yeah, he made
No,
people go to
go back to
sleep,
brunch.
and with the security of, oh, we have a Democrat in office now, so it's easier for us to accept the crumbs that they give us. Which, and I tell people, for certain people, a crumb is too late. That's not enough at this point. And I don't see the squad going as hard on their leadership as they were like in their principles. That's what they were instructed to do, was to challenge the establishment, including their colleagues. And we don't see them doing that unless if it's politically expedient. Going back to Ayanna for a second, she was saying they didn't say like, oh, like the president couldn't cancel student debt. She didn't say who they was. That was Pelosi. Pelosi was at a news statement basically saying that the president cannot. So that's her leadership. So, but they can't call them out because that means their job. So they have to be very vague in terms of who they're talking about for people in that room to assume, oh, they're talking about Republicans here, or they're talking about the Supreme Court here, versus their leadership who has said these things, have been on record for saying these things. And the Justice Democrats aren't even doing their job in saying, no, it's actually our leadership. And we have to combat against them as much as we should the Republicans.
Wow. So, look, I want to continue. I want to give you the final word for this, especially in regards towards the Squad Victory Fund. As you walked out, you were not kicked out, to be very clear here, because
no, I wasn't kicked out. I after that exchange with Ayanna, like I just got really angry, and I knew there was no, like, I'll say this, kid, it was very hard to be in that room. It was very nauseating to be in that room, just to hear a lot of the platitudes and word salads and the misdirection, and like that audience just kind of ate it up. And I will say this here, like, technically I wasn't the only one in that room who should have called them out. And I'm glad that people called her out, like on Twitter, because Medea Benjamin was also present at that event as well. And she heard me call out Bowman, and especially Ayanna. I know she was right there because she was like 3 feet away from me. But she sat down. She didn't say anything. She left a few seconds before I did. So I've always had suspicions about Medea, and that kind of proved it. It's very easy. It's very interesting that she's able to go into these rooms in Congress that most of us do not have access to. But she had an opportunity to call out the squad like she does normally, like in Congress. She didn't do it. She just sat there and she was just like having a grand old time. And she heard me call out the squad and said nothing.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing it up, because we got a 2-hour show here, folks. So I want to give you the final word, because I want to pull up where people could find you online. So go ahead. I want to give you the final word.
So again, I paid money for this. I didn't want to, but I think it's kind of good. I'm glad to do it for our audiences to see who do not have the money, who do not have that access. I realize the privilege that I do have. I think just having this platform in independent media, but also given my position to really reveal the ugly as far as our federal politics, and being able to open a window or like look behind the curtain to some of the talks that our politicians, than the ones that claim to be on our side, are having, to unbeknownst to most people, in the country, especially those who may still feel that the squad are actually working on our behalf. So hopefully that kind of proves to you that they're not. And they're not going to do anything for us at this point. They kind of proven that. And it's right now, it's basically on us to do the work to challenge, especially the Justice Democrats, to do something. We're the only ones now that can rely on each other to ensure that we are the change that we want to see in our politics.
That's a fantastic note to end it on. We got the rest of the show to continue on, folks. And by the way, please be sure to, again, follow Hard Lens Media on social media as well. We have a website. We're on YouTube, Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble, and Twitch. We're continuing on with the rest of our show. We're just going to take a short 30-second break. We'll see you on the rest of the program. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot of fun.
Our society and our world are full of these invented and built up and contrived facades. And sometimes some people come along with a hammer and smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi's killer, but there's no more bees. So there's hardly any flowers, there are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars, mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite. It lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream. And for premium subscribers, doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech, and if it hears disinformation, then it notifies police. It's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. I faced the future boldly with 2 eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind. Like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive, and they'll shine when it's election time. See, the Democratic voter base will pay them zero. Never mind if voting for the scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fuck it, ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show stacks of bills in every size. Guess it only took a black sun and a couple hiles. Honorary goose step and some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed until they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals.
And sometimes some people come along with a hammer.
See, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something title, who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blinded idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.